Hello! I am not late! What is going on? Have I been replaced by a cauliflower? Hey Ian and Jerry and Dan and Ethereal Ode and Malvina and Anya and Jennifer. Yay! Hi guys! I still have the squishy backdrop. Sorry. Ethereal Ode, have you ever told us your real name, and would you prefer to be called by your actual name instead of Ethereal Ode? I'm a bit early today, so I will start just filling up the time. Hey Paolo and Jacqueline, I want to show you guys. I got this in the mail. I'm sure some of you have recognized what this is, but it is the small portable palette that Stephanie Primonla has kickstarted. So you got this mixing one, and it's all like ceramic. And you have, this is the one for the paints. Look how tiny it is. I'm like, wow, holy moly. I'm not, I haven't figured out what exactly I want to do with it. I'm thinking I might put like a bunch of colors in there and make it for when I want to paint like super tiny things, because it is so small. It's so cute. And it came with pins, but I've put the pins on my like pin thingy. And yeah, if you are curious about this, this says mini palettes at palettes.shadowscapes.com. And yeah, this is art by Stephanie Primonla. I've been following her work for like years. I think she just signed Stephanie Law on there. But yeah, I used to be a fan of her work on Elfwood. For some of those of you. Hey, okay, Deborah, nice. I'll try to remember that. Hey, Mikey. It is cute, isn't it? It is kind of heavy because it is ceramic, but it is so small and so easy to like travel with. And I think for future like production of this palette, she has signed up the deal with the guys that do the Etcher satchel. So that might be possible to buy this again in the future, but a bit different. So yeah, it's fairly unique. That's what really appealed to me, even if the miniature size of the wells kind of confuses me a bit, but I'm super excited about this. Yeah, first thing to do is to get the tiny brush. Very true. This is a good one to use with, you know, the 000, 50, 10-0 brushes. Hey Grace, hi. Otto! Yay! Hi, poodle lover. Okay, so I got a bunch of stuff set up, and there's only one other thing that I want to show for now. I got some cute friend mail. Kelly and Kwasi. Kwasi is the cat. But Kelly and Q, or Kwasi, have sent me a really, really nice friend mail. So first of all, a postcard, because that's my jam. I love the postcards. It's from Western Australia. It's a grass tree. It says the flowering spike makes the perfect fishing spear, which is already pretty interesting. But Kelly adds, pro tip, these things are also super flammable. They can also grow a whopping 2.5 centimeter a year on average, so the one on the postcard is probably pretty old. So I think that's pretty awesome. It really looks like a funky plant. Yeah, I will second what Dan says. Otto, you're at least a tiny bit fortunate in that it seems you are in a city that is awesome for walks and like really gorgeous and pretty neat. So that's kind of cool. Like if I were to take that kind of distance walk around here, all I would see is houses and like boring houses, not even pretty ones. Okay, and Kelly also sent some tea, some T2 Melbourne breakfast flavored tea in a bag. It was really nicely packaged, but I've since sort of put it back together. There are some Twinings tea to try in there. I'm really excited to try this one because it's like it seems really unique. Australian afternoon, but there are also orange and cinnamon spice. And the T2 Melbourne breakfast is black tea and vanilla. It smells amazing and it's right up my alley. So that's one thing I'm super excited about, and also because Kelly is really generous, she also sent these, which I'm opening with you guys. Also look at the super portable X-Acto blade. Montreal is beautiful, but not around here. Montreal is huge. I think it might be difficult for people in Europe to grasp just how big Montreal can be. Hi Victor! But yeah, I was chatting with Otto and I found out that Montreal is about 500 kilometers square. It's 50 kilometer by 16. So like if I want to take a walk from where I am right now, it's fairly limited, like to get to the interesting spots. All the interesting spots are further away from me. How was the chocolate chai tea? It was delicious. Yay! And yeah, Kelly sent me some art spectrum paints, but some of the ones with like Australian color theme to them, which is really something that fascinates me. There is Australian grey, Australian red gold, Tasman blue, and Pilbara red, which I probably butchered the way it said if Melbourne is like Melbourne. But I will feature these quite soon because I'm super excited to try them. So I wanted to show this awesome stuff that Kelly sent and say thank you very much, Kelly. It's really generous and awesome, and I'm super excited about it. So yay, thank you so much. That was from T22. Oh, awesome. I'll really make a note to check if they have a website, T2T.com. I will definitely check it out. Okay, so I will put all this awesome stuff away and we can move on to the topic of today's live stream. I hope you guys are ready. You have pencil, paper, hot chocolate, tea. We're gonna be doing something a bit different today. Oh, Victor, awesome! This is great news, Victor. I'm so happy for you. Yay! Still the best tea I've had is from Pecco's tea shop. I will tell her. How's the weather up there? It's a really nice day in terms of sun, but it's also really cold, which is usually the way these goes. If you have nice clear weather, it's gonna be colder. And if it's cloudy and gray, it's usually gonna be warmer. So it's about minus 20 Celsius at the moment. Alright, so today, what I wanted to do is a bit different. I wanted to give sort of, not exactly a class because I don't feel qualified to give a class exactly, but I wanted to share my tips and my process when I paint what I call cartoony cats. I took out a few examples here of what I mean by that. It's when I draw things like these, you know, like cats that stand on two legs that are simplified, and like this one is a good example of what I mean. And also these. So I wanted to talk a bit about that because I think it could be interesting, and it's a good base to draw just about any kind of cartoony animal you want, really. So that's what I am aiming to do. I got some notes here in my bright yellow notebook. Just need to find them. Okay, there it is. Just space. Thank you, Otto. Yeah, I was talking with Otto, and that's how the idea came about. So I will be sketching. This is just like sketching paper. It's really nothing special. But I can fit it under the camera, and I just forgot to grab some pencil, which is a bit silly. I want something that will be visible enough. For someone with so many pencils, I don't have a lot of like regular HB pencil around. Oh, cool. All right. Okay, sorry. Whew. Okay, I'm catching up on chat. Yeah, Montreal is huge. It's a really big city. How big is Seattle? How does Toronto or Vancouver compare in size to Montreal? Ooh. I would have to check online the superficie. I'm sharpening up my pencil. Like, I've been to Toronto, but only downtown Toronto. So it's kind of difficult to, like, if you go to only downtown Montreal, it's perhaps difficult to grasp the size of it. Okay. Oh yeah, Seattle is smaller than Montreal. Huh. Montreal is huge. It's also a really weird city. It's on an island, if you don't know, and it's weird in the sense that there's a part near the port that's like downtown Montreal and the old port, and that's really fancy and old. But then you spread out, you know, outside of that, and the very east and the very west of the island, because Montreal is a bit like that. So this bit and this bit, they're really different from the rest of the island. I think there's a manor over here like that's selling for a couple of $1 million. You know, really common stuff. So it's a strange place. Okay, so I got a bunch of pencils here that I hope will be quite visible. They tend to be dark, so that should do it. And I'll also have this guy. Okay, so oh, bye poodle lover. Have fun with the banana bread. Okay, so like I said, disclaimer again, I am not really a professional, but these are just tips that I want to share, and they can be helpful or they can be not exactly helpful, but I'm still learning, so yeah. I'm checking my notes. Okay, so the cats, the cartoony cats, it's like how to tell that they are cats. How can you tell that one is a cat? It's usually the head, because you have like characteristic cat head. There's also the tail, and there's the paws. Because if you take any of the cartoony cats and you switch around the head, the paws, and the tail, you can make it into a hamster, any kind of like a mouse, a dog. You know, you can really like switch it out. Maybe not something like an elephant, that might start being a bit surreal, but if you look at Babar, still, I mean, it's all about the head and, you know, the feet and tail. So in that regard, when you have the head, I try to keep it super simple. So we have the ears, you have the eyes, the nose, and sometimes I don't draw a nose, and you have the mouth. That's basically all there is, because the rest of the shape is just this. It's generally just an oval like this. So what you have as a head is an oval, and you can switch around these features to make it something different. Some animals will be perhaps difficult, like a horse, because the structure of the face is really not on a single shape. It's a bit more like you know, that's more like horsey-esque. So that's a bit more difficult to integrate into this super simple structure, but I am not at the point where I want to draw horses very often. I still want to get my head wrapped around cats first, because I love cats. Cats are easier for me to draw. I have a lot of references of cats, and most cats are all the same shape. You know, you have dog breeds that vary a lot in size and proportion, but generally cats, they're all roughly the same. So that's for the head. The head is basically an oval with features, these features. The body is kind of a blank body that you can easily adapt to the animals, and what makes it a cat in this case is these features, the paws and the tail. But for the body, I usually start with like a triangle shape like that, and you have the hypothetical head here, and then you have like this, and like this. This is basically how I like work it around in my head. It's just these shapes. It's where I start, because if I start at the place where I think about anatomy and structure and bone and all of that, it gets really confusing fast, and it takes me further away from what I want to do with these drawings, which I will get to in a second. So yeah, that's basically the whole thing, and it's, you can see from my drawings that, like, I often, well, not this one, this one is not a good example, but you know, I try to keep the angles, like this is, the cat is in front of us. It's not like a difficult pose for this one. And if you look at all of these, the poses are really simple as well. Like my goal is not to make my life difficult is to make my life simple. So I try to keep it super simple, which is why the body's like that. And you can easily like switch it around for like things like hamsters, dogs, otters, like a lot of animals would be compatible with this body. If you have any questions, you can always ask them, no problem. The pencil is short. I have a longer one if that's a problem. Yeah, if you have questions, by all means, you can ask them whenever. And I will try to answer to the best I can. If there are things you want me to clarify or slow down or explain better, also feel free to comment. I want this to be interactive, not just me rambling on for like an hour. Okay, yeah. What I try to keep in mind about the body is that you have this triangular shape, and then these are like sausages. Like, it doesn't really matter how it joins up. You know, sometimes you have these construction drawings that are super elaborate. I'm gonna try to make one, but like they have ball and joints, and you have like the limbs and another joint and the limbs and construction lines, and that's useful, but for something else. That's useful when you want to really learn structure and 3D and constructing of shapes. But what I want to focus on when I draw with this body shape is I want to focus more on expression and telling a story. So I'm focusing on I'm focusing more on the silhouette and the what kind of emotion I can push through the body. An example of that I have is in this one. It's fairly minor, it's not super exaggerated, but like I tried to make it so that this one cat would be leaning a bit further away from the splashing water. So I just tried to make everything work in that sense. I don't know if that explains super well what I mean. I was literally going to ask about the body being a triangle. Yeah, you've seen me draw Dante with shoulders, and that was kind of weird. So when I draw cats, I usually don't really give them shoulders unless they do like if they do like this shoulder raise thing. I don't know what the word is. Like if they do this, then I will sort of invent shoulders for this pose, but that's because it serves my expression in this pose better. Like if the cat is just chilling, it's a cat, so let's if the cat is just like casual, I like to give them like no definite shoulder. I think it's funnier, and it fits cats well because they love like lazing around a lot. That's just the way I like to work it out. Yeah, I shrugged. Thank you so much. I only add the expression in French in my head, and I was like, what's... Les serviettes, non? Ouais. Okay, so I haven't drawn many profiles, as you can see from the drawings I've shown earlier. Profiles are often kind of an awkward angle, regardless of drawing cartoony or not. It's usually kind of flat, and it can be a bit more complex if you are drawing a face. Because like if you draw the face as an oval facing forward, you don't really have to take into consideration the volume of the muzzle and the way the cat face is shaped in that angle, like this. Everything is facing forward, so you can just draw like ears, eyes, nose, and that's passable. But if you want to do like a profile view, that gets a bit more confusing, because then you have sort of an overlap of the ears, which doesn't read as well, and then cats have like more volume in a profile than they do, so it can be difficult to adapt the features that we had that were super cartoony here to make them as cartoony on the profile. I don't know if you can just like get away with making it like a just, you know, like keep the oval and just never mind about all this structure. Okay, question. Do you have any tips on positioning eyes, nose, etc. for cuter looking cats? I will try. I'm just thinking about this because I've seen so many variants of cute cats, and I think it depends a lot on who's watching. Because I've seen things sold as cute cats that I was like, well, it's a cat, so I like it, but to me it doesn't feel as cute as some other structure. I think usually what I find cuter, and I have Peko as a good demo for that, but it's when you keep the features closer together. I will try it. Let's try it out. Let's draw, this is a cat face, and let's keep the eyes, the nose, and the mouth fairly, you know, in the same area. And let's try and draw another face, but spread the features apart more. So have the eyes further apart, the nose, the mouth. That's already a bit more weird and not as cute. Another thing that I've seen often that I don't really find cute personally for cats is when you have the eyes, the nose, and then the mouth really far apart. I think that's just weird. Even if you don't draw this line, like that's not exactly cute. So yeah, you can also play up the size of the eyes, like Dan is saying. That's usually a thing you see with you know, like babies and baby animals and all of that. If you position the eyes like bigger, and I think there's something about if you position them lower in the face, it's gonna look cuter. Well, this one looks a bit unsettled. I'm not like, I'm not a cutesy art stuff thing. What if I draw the same thing but with the eyes? Well, it kind of looks just like the cat is. Like it kind of still looks like the angle is different on the face. Cute cats, so a cat. Yeah, gotta think kitten. That's a really good idea. So I think for a kitten, well, already you draw like huge ears, and you can draw like the features are always being like perhaps like close together, like everything is in the same thingy, but you draw the, and I keep on drawing these. I don't think these eyes are fairly, like I keep drawing pupils like this. This is how it works. So it's not exactly cute, but here, that's already like a smile is already much cuter than just a regular frown. I don't know if that helps. I am not super cutesy. I struggle a lot with the cutesy stuff. I'm not super good at it. But if I were to draw a kitten, that's what I would do. Like have the the adult's head, and then you have the kitten's head, which is smaller, but you draw like ears that are huge and big eyes, and you know, something like that. Does that help a bit? I hope it does. I'm sorry if it doesn't. I like those ghosty cats with no face but the eye. These ones? Or these? Oh, yay. Why does that middle cat look high on catnip? Which one? Also, just a quick note about profile views. I just want to bring to your attention something that is pretty awesome with drawing, is that you can cheat. And what I mean by that is take a moment to think about Mickey Mouse. So, basic silhouette of Mickey Mouse is something like this, right? The ears, the face, and all that. And if you look Mickey Mouse from the side, still gonna have the ears like that. And that's what I mean by cheating, is that sometimes when you draw a cat, this is really handy to have around too, but if you look at the profile view, it's not as interesting a silhouette. So you can always cheat a bit. Like if you do a profile and you don't want to have the ears exactly overlap, you can sort of cheat them a bit. And it's going to be perhaps more interesting to have the two ears like that in the silhouette than just the one ear. So I will switch page, sharpen up the tiny pencil. So the other element that is always super important to me is silhouette. And silhouette for me is super important because of the way I was trained and the kind of jobs I had in things relating to storyboard. And it really stuck with me. It's not something like, you know, when you learn drawing, there are certain things that are difficult to grasp and make yours, and silhouette is something that has sort of always stuck with me. And I think it's just because for me it's easier to think in terms of a clear silhouette than to start thinking about overlapping and all of that. So I really like working with clear silhouette. What I mean by that is that let's say we have a cat, okay, and our cat is sort of like handling a flower forward. Let's say this is the flower. Cat holds it with both hands, and he is standing up. So that's what we have. And ears, because cat. It might look like something like this, but if I were to fill in the silhouette, what you get is not exactly exciting and doesn't read super well. You know, you got this blob, this blob, this blob, and then you get a bit of a, well, this is a bit interesting, but then you have like more blobs and the ears. So you can't really tell what's going on from this one. So what I personally like to do is always try to think of a clearer way to express what I want to draw. So let's have our cat again. And this time, to make it clearer, I'm just going to try and think of a better way to spread it out. So freeing up the arm here, and I'm bringing up the other one here, and this time he's going to be holding the flower in only one hand. So this is already much better in terms of understanding what happens. Like if I were to black all of this shape out, you could probably still tell what is going on with zero details. Sorry, I'm a bit outside of frame perhaps. I think my chat is possibly frozen. Hold on. Okay, no, I think it's fine. So yeah, like Otto was saying, there is more interest, and this is much easier to understand than this one. Even if this one is an entirely possible way to express that moment. But you as the artist, you always have the final word, and you get to decide what you want to, how you want to express it. Even sometimes, like, this is what I like, is that you have the freedom of cheating a bit and making this like a bit different, like the head here. If the cat is offering the flower this side, perhaps a profile would be better, but we've already seen that profiles are boring. So you can keep the face like in this 3/4 view, draw the eyes, but have the cat look that way. So that will work just as well, and it will be more interesting than having, you know, the profile view, because profiles are not really dynamic. Thank you. Yeah, it's my background as storyboardist that really helped me figure this silhouette stuff out. And since I've storyboarded for cartoony stuff, well, that follows along. Another example I can give, that's something that you've seen me done often, is when I draw the cats like running around, which is something I really enjoy doing too. So this is usually how I start. I draw like the head, the ears, because I love drawing the ears. In my opinion, 2 eyes is always better than 1, yes. Even, okay, just a quick parenthesis, even if you were to get super close to a profile, like sometimes I like to cheat the profiles a bit, where you will still have a sneak peek of the other eye. Just because it's more dynamic and it's much less flat, and then you can have both ears, you know, like that. It's same with humans. If you draw, if your focus is humans and you want to draw a profile, it's always a tiny bit more interesting to have a, you know, a fake profile where you have just a bit of the other the other eye poking through, because it's more dynamic and it will read as a profile anyway, but it's not going to be flat. I don't know if that makes sense. Like absolutely full-on profiles, they're super interesting when they're part of the composition. Say you want to do something really structured, really elaborate, really I'm thinking of like royal portraits, like something really official, and the profile fits within that mood and that intention, then you can use a full-on profile, like completely flat. But in terms of expressivity and all of that, it's kind of, even if you have 2 people like facing each other, I would have both have fake cheated profiles, like a bit like this. The other person have the same kind of, or like just sneak peek of the eye. That's just make sense. Okay, back to running cat. So already head, and since the cat is running that way, I like to have, you know, the body like in that direction, because then you have a super nice contrast of this leg, and then the other leg is the one that is backwards, like this. So that's already super clear. Now the difficulty is the arms. Like when someone runs, usually this is something that you learn in animation. Let's say you're running. I don't know why this is kind of a dumb way to start this, but okay. Human person running, okay? So if the torso is facing you a bit, and this arm is backward, the leg that's on the same side is going to be forward, so like this, and the leg that's going to be opposite side is going to be the one that's behind. Like you always alternate arms and legs when running. I don't know if that makes sense. So when I draw the cats running, this position is implies that this is the leg that is closer to us, and this is the leg that is further away. If I was to construct this, you know, with geometry and all of that. So in that sense, am I getting too confusing with this? I mean, I say it implies because I didn't draw like the overlap of legs, because you could draw the legs the other way around, but it would be a bit more confusing for silhouette, because then you have this weird overlap. It's still, you know, not that bad. I could do it like this, but it's not, I don't find it as dynamic as having it be the other way around. Does it matter about making sure the arms or legs are the same length? Depends on the perspective. Yeah, that's true. If you draw something like flat on like this, it's usually a good idea to try to keep it at least a bit consistent. Like this is expressive, and if you realize that if you keep them the same length is not ideal for readability, you can always cheat a bit, but it's gotta make sure it doesn't look off. So that's the weird thing, and there's always an issue with like, what do you do if the arm comes forward a bit, and then like you have this, like in the same way that like when my pencil comes forward in the camera, it gets shortened. So that's a bit difficult, but if you want to keep it super simple, you can always keep like the things really flat, not really bother with this, just make the arm go out like this or come back like this. And yeah, it's always best to try to keep the limbs at least consistent, like the two arms are the same length or look the same length, and the two legs look the same length. And it's not about taking a ruler and measuring, it's just optically, does it work? I don't know if that answers the question. Yeah, so here my kitty that's running, since this leg goes backward, then the arm on the same side goes forward, and it would be the other arm, the one that's back, that goes backwards. But that's kind of, you know, you can't always, you cannot completely win in terms of silhouette when a cat is running or any character is running, because you cannot have the, you know, the same arm that's backward. That's just weird. That's not how we run. And humans are really good at spotting things that are weird and unusual, so it's usually quite apparent, even if you haven't studied this kind of stuff. What if my arms really are different lengths? Well, must be really difficult to find a good sweater. So, there is perhaps one last thing I just want to address a bit, is when you want to have some kind of emotion expressed in the drawing. Like, say if someone is scared. Say, I don't know if I'm still in frame, okay, cool. Say we have a cat that is scared. If you draw your cat scared, just like this, it could work. You know, like, let's say this is my cat that is scared. His expression is not reassured. His hands are together because he's kind of like protecting himself, and that could work fine. But say you want to really amp it up, you can try something a bit different, where you add this motion in the body. So let's say the cat is scared of a spider. Well, if you still have your spider here, and you do your cat, this time you lean him really backwards, away from the thing he's afraid of. So we already have this. Try to follow this line. So one leg is going to be here, but then if I draw the other leg like at the same time, it's going to look like he's falling. So let's say I want to draw the leg like this to make it a bit more stable. And then I want to draw like really horrified. I might try to draw something more like this, where I try to just move a bit the arms away from the body and have them just something I might try. And since it's a cat, something I like to do is that when I draw cats that are surprised or scared, I like to draw the poofy tail. And you can really go and make the ears flat, or you know, you can play with this, but always keep in mind that you can use, you know, sort of the direction of your body, the body you're drawing, to help imply a bit more of the emotion they're feeling. If the character you're drawing likes something, then you can make them lean forward, like toward the thing they like. If they're afraid of it, you make them lean away from the thing they like. I don't know if that makes sense. Do you guys have any questions or anything you're curious about? Or if you want me to move on to something else? This is the first time I tried this kind of stuff, so I'm really insecure about it. Taking a hot chocolate break. Well, it's not really hot anymore, but sorry. Hey, Ellen. Hi. Whew. Okay. Thanks, guys. I feel better. I'm a bit I was a bit unsure. Question: could you please go into a bit about how you express different emotions, with just the facial features? Yeah, sure. And do you use reference when drawing? Okay, I will just write this one down. I will switch pencil. This one is getting yeah, let's grab the big new one. Okay, so expressions. I'll be honest, and I'll say that expression is something that for me was difficult to learn, and it took me a long time to get really comfortable with them. And I think a part of why I was uncomfortable is that when I would draw on my own, I wasn't really sure of the style of drawing I wanted to draw. And I find that drawing realistic expressions is so much more difficult than cartoony ones. Drawing cartoony expressions started working for me when I did a job. Sorry, when I did a storyboard job where I had to draw a lot of them in a really tight schedule. Sorry, I have hiccups. Okay, so yeah, this sort of concentrated time doing this stuff repeatedly really helped me figure it out. So I will try to share the tips I have, but if you have any questions, ask them, because the tips I have are from doing it a lot. So I don't know how many gaps could be missing, you know, about this understanding. So do I have notes on this? I have a couple of notes. Okay, so like with silhouette, like with everything, I always try to keep the expressions super clear, which is why I love drawing them in a cartoony way, because you don't really have to start, you know, like considering, okay, well, I'm gonna look at me draw an eye randomly from memory. Like, oh, okay, the eye, well, there's this bit, and then you have the eye, and then you have the waterline, and then you have the other one, and then you have this, and the lashes, and how all of that reacts, and then you have the eyebrow, and how all of this is impacted by the expression. To me, that's not fun. That's not fun stuff. So when I sketch out expressions, this is the eyes I use. Mostly, sometimes I will only have like a line like this, and I just try to have the line of sight work, because that's also really hard to make work, and you have to practice a lot, and it's much easier to practice on these kinds of eyes than this kind of fully elaborate blah blah stuff, realistic thingy that I'm personally like don't find it fun, and it's about having fun, right? So I always keep them super simple. Like this is an eye, and then if I want to do a more refined sketch, perhaps I will ask myself other questions of how exactly I want to present this. But in terms of sketch and intention and expression, this for me works perfectly fine. So with that in mind, I'm trying to think how I can sort of when it's about being more cartoony and more about expressing the thing clearly, I like to exaggerate. Like I don't like example of this just in this side, you don't have like I don't draw like a super elaborate thingy with the pupil, and I mean you could if you want to, you can, but I just want to get this down. So most of the eyes are drawn on dots, because dots you can see right away how that work, and then I try to exaggerate always. So say you want to draw someone that is suspicious, or what some people call the DreamWorks eyebrow, but okay, let's say this person has just been told that like if they do this thing it's gonna have this result, and they don't think it's true. So usually when you have an eyebrow raised, like this is all you see in your head, perhaps an eyebrow raised, but this is not exactly exaggerated. So the way I would go about it is I would really exaggerate it. So this is the eyebrow that doesn't really raise, so I will put it much lower, and the one that raises I will put it much higher, And since this one gets down, it will affect the shape of the eye. If you think about it, when you frown, it affects the shape of your eye as well. So I might try to have this one be more like this, you know, really exaggerated, where you have this eye that all scrunched up and this one that's open bigger because that's the one with the eyebrow raised. And the person is suspicious about the thing. I don't know if that makes sense. It's always about exaggerating what it feels like. And your own face can be really useful for that. But because say you make an expression, surprise, you don't look in the mirror, you just try to focus on how your face feels. Because if you look in the mirror, you might not see a big difference, but sometimes when you're surprised, you go like, oh, I feel like my eyebrows, they go up, my eyes open wide. And if you were to look in the mirror, you would see like, oh, well, it doesn't change much from usual. But if you don't look in the mirror and you just feel it, you will feel perhaps that your eyes go really like this, you know, when actually they just barely change from normal. So that's sometimes a thing, like when you frown and the way you feel your face crunch up, that's something you can use, just a feeling, to try and represent that feeling visually. I know a lot of people in the animation industry, they use mirrors. It can be really useful when you want to structure a face and have really a structured expression, but that's not really my jam either. So Jennifer says, anyone else finds sometimes it's better to draw fast? And yes, I would say that if you take a page like this, like a blank page, and you just want to practice expression, draw a bunch of them really fast. And you don't try to think too much. Because, like it or not, we all have this sort of innate bank of what a human is supposed to look like. Like the same thing when you look at a CGI movie and you're like, oh, there's something really off-putting about this, but I don't know what. Like the uncanny valley effect. I think that sometimes if we don't think, we can really just go into that instinct part of ourselves and just, sometimes we're lucky and we put down exactly the thing we want because we didn't think about it. So I don't know if that helps with the, like, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Throw out emotion names and get me to draw them, perhaps, so that way I can explain a bit more my process. Also, I want to answer Victor's question about using references when drawing. Yes. You've seen me draw a lot from reference, right? Like, I will study a lot of things, but if I want to draw a cartoony cat, I won't usually look at a reference of what exactly I want to do. I might look at the reference of a specific cat to see if they have like special feature, like say they have a really wide face and like closed eyes. Well, I can use that to make my cartoon cat. Sorry. I drank my hot chocolate way too fast. But I will do a lot of studies of cats. They will look like but they're studies, you know, it doesn't have to look good. I have a sketchbook for studies that I'm not going to show to anyone. I will copy other art, I will copy from pictures, I will struggle with something and just like draw it for a full page. And I will also study all kinds of styles that are not necessarily what I want to do, but it helps sometimes to just refresh your brain and learn new stuff. So yeah, I use these also. I brought them around. I can buy these from a local book store chain. And these are just, well, these are cat figurines because I love to draw cats, but they're super handy. Say, something that I find difficult to draw is ears, cat ears, because they have, they're hollow, you know. It's not just a triangle, it's a hollow triangle on one side. So sometimes it's difficult to figure out how much you see of the inside of the ear and how much you see of the external, you know, area of the ear. So having these figurines can be super handy. Like you can quickly rotate them and see, okay, if the head is in that angle, okay, I can see that the ear, I would see only the outside of it, not the inside. So it can help sometimes fix issues that you have with the drawing, and you look at it and you're like, I'm not sure why it doesn't work, but it doesn't work. So you can grab one of these and just quickly, especially for the head, you look around and you're like, oh, okay, well, on that angle, we wouldn't see the eye. Okay, cool. So I will try this out on my drawing and see if it fixes my problem. So that's one kind of reference that I find quite useful. It's also nice to be able to grab the thing, because even if we draw super cartoony stuff that's not constructed, sometimes it can help, you know, to see what's the length of the tail on this cat in comparison to the body, or it can help drawing the paws as well, because paws are like hands, and hands are super hard to draw in general. So yeah, that's a thing that's useful. And I had shown the book of cat pictures also that I had, you know, the little square book. It's a really useful one that I use for drawing. Oh, bye, Deborah. Thank you so much for stopping by. Have a good nap. Yeah, ears are really tough. And even if I have cats, I still find it super difficult to draw. So, do you guys want to throw some expressions? I see an angry one. If there is one thing I haven't found useful for drawing expressions, is looking at photos of humans making faces. I don't know why. For me, that really hasn't helped me much, just because I think I get lost in the detail and all the realism, and I find it difficult to boil down an expression to a couple of lines. But some people might really work good with it. I don't know. Okay, so angry. Is that big enough? Should I make it bigger? Let me grab bigger. Hold on. Okay, so a couple of things you can do to help yourself is that you can always draw like middle lines. I know middle lines will seem... Hold on. If you write too much at once, I will not be able to keep them in mind. Blush. Relaxed. Okay. So it's just, you know, help to keep in mind that this is technically an oval. Like, it's not a flat oval. It's still like a bean, you know. And I will often draw just these lines so that I have a frame of reference to say if I want to draw the eyes, both sides of the line. Well, I have this line so I can, you know the distance they are from the line, and the nose is going to be on the line, and the mouth. So it just helps, but that might not always give the result you want. Like, I don't like the mouth in this place, but it's on the line, you know, so it should be okay, but I don't like it, so I will move it over there. It just helps, but it's not necessary. But yeah, in terms of aligning eyes and nose, it's helpful. So angry. Well, when we are angry, usually frown like this. And if we are really, really angry, sometimes like people will snarl, and then you have the face that comes up. out like that. That's something like when you feel angry, sometimes you will have angry people that have really the eyes wide open. This might be a little bit more crazy angry than just, you know. But I think the key to having something that looks angry is this angle. And cats don't usually have eyebrows. The Dragon Ball eyes, these really look like Dragon Ball. I'm not so sure I like this stylization, but it's really rare that I get an expression on the first try. So I just keep drawing them and doodling them until I get something I want. But when you have something that with eyebrows, it's really easy because you can have like the eyebrows extend like this, but cats don't really have eyebrows. They have like a couple of hairs like this. So sometimes I draw them, sometimes I don't. So I think I'm liking this sort of anger more. And then the mouth is always difficult. This is like, this would be the really easiest option, to just have this upside down V shape. Like, I am not happy. If you want something a bit more snarly, that's when it gets a bit more difficult to draw, well, I find, because you have like this volume in the mouth that's open, where the muzzle is here and then the mouth is open, and you have like, it must not look like a smile ideally, so that's kind of a bit more difficult and would probably require like a lot of sketching, not necessarily research, but just, you know, you start somewhere, you look at it, you ask yourself, is this how I want to express this emotion? Yes, no, and then you adjust. Also, if it's a cat, you can have the ears flat to help. Like, that's something that's pretty neat. Like, you have animal specific behavior that you can use to help with the emotions, like puffy tail. The cats, if they have a wagging tail, it means they're annoyed, but you can also use that to draw a dog that's happy. So perhaps the mouth. I'm just trying to, you know, I allow myself to explore on paper, see if I can find what I want. And it doesn't mean that I might, doesn't mean that I will, but yeah. I don't know if that helps for angry. Surprises. There's a thing you can also kind of play a tiny bit with, is stretching the face. A face is elastic, so this oval might not always be exactly the same shape. Say you want to have surprise. Since surprise tends to be an expression that's sort of stretchy like that, I would like perhaps stretch a bit the face, make the ears really upright, and then you have the big eyes, you know, because they're wide open with surprise. And what makes for a good surprise face, in my opinion, is the fact that the pupils are tiny. If you draw like big pupils in there, it might work, might not work. If you draw pupils that have no white around them, then it's not gonna look like surprise usually. Like if they're big, if I draw this like this, this is not gonna look surprised as much. But if I keep the eye looking that way, but I draw this instead, this is already a tiny bit more surprised, I feel. And then since we stretch the face a bit like this, I try to keep the nose close to the eyes, because that I don't like when it's not exactly close, but you can put the mouth really at the bottom. and that helps stretch the features a bit, and I feel like it looks a bit more surprised. Oh, stay safe, Victor. Good luck. Yeah, a big pupil with that face makes it look really high. Catnip. If you want a real catnip mood. So a good thing you can always test, say you want to draw an expression, it doesn't really work like you want, you can always test it like next to it, just quickly, like you draw a bunch of lines and say, okay, what happens if I, you know, have the pupil touch the eye, and what happens if I don't? How does that affect the expression? Sometimes it will just look like they are not looking at the same place. Fine, but sometimes it might help you figure out that to really deliver the expression you want, it works better one way or the other. That cat isn't coming back to reality. Not soon. Okay, so blush. Blush like embarrassed blush, or blush because they're in love and they just saw their crush? What kind of blush? I think exploration is really, really the best way to figure this out. I remember when I decided to just, I started sketching at some point with a felt tip pen. Just, you know, not something you can erase. Just anything you can just draw and you don't have to erase. And I would try to go really fast. So I would just, you know, I kept filling pages, just draw. I was drawing humans mostly, but sorry. Just, you know, pumping these out super quickly and just focusing on where they look, the expressions, you know, just quickly, and you fill pages and pages with them. And they're not about the skill or anything. They're more about like muscle memory and practice. So you just like put out the most you can, and you don't erase, because this is not the point. You're not there to erase. You just fill pages with stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff. And at first they were bad, and I was like, ugh, where am I going with this? But I kept going, and eventually, like, you succeed at one, and then you're like, oh, this one wasn't so bad, and then you continue and you succeed at another one, and eventually the ratio of things that you draw that works gets higher than things that don't work. It's just through practice and not focusing on the details. Crush blush. Okay, crush blush. I think it would be a bit surprised. Say he just turned the corner and he saw, or she saw, they're crushed over there. It would just like have it, you know, a tiny smile, big eyes, wide stare, and then you just had this as a blush, because that's basically, and they are alert, so the ears are upright. I agree. I understand that about being shy about practicing. I used to be super shy about practicing. Like for a long time, my sketchbook was all about, you know, like, okay, I have to draw a pose, and I would try to figure out the pose in the corner and then draw it bigger and then make it work. But it's okay to practice in part as well. You don't have to practice everything all at once. And the fact that I was using like a marker, something that was permanent and not erasable, you can't erase anyway. So you just start doing it. And if you want to draw cat heads, you can just start by, you know, you draw them small at first and you just scribble like as if you were on the phone, and you draw many of them, and at some point you might realize that you kind of like the ones that are really flat, let's say, and you're like, hey, I like this. This is like the really flat with the tiny ears up top like this. This is something I find really funny, and you sort of keep that in mind, and then you try something else. You try features. How is the feature far apart funnier? Is the feature closer apart funnier? And you just experiment with stuff. And I understand that it's the shyness about practicing, but the best tip I can give you is you get a big sketchbook, an inexpensive one. You get any kind of inexpensive pencil, and you just sit down and you don't think. You can do it while watching TV, listening to a audiobook. You can even do it when you're tired. It's almost best if you do it when you're tired, because then you don't really focus. You just scribble, and sometimes you find something that is really you in all those scribbles, because you don't censor yourself at all. You just put it out. Hey, Poodle, welcome back. Save me a cookie. Okay, so a relaxed kitty. If I want to make the kitty look super relaxed, I might make their head kind of soft. Like, say they are at bath, at Springs, and they are taking a sauna or something. Well, imagine they're kind of melty, so the face is like, you know, like squished, like a mochi, like mochi. Yeah, if you get precious about paper, you get any kind of this is 9x12, but it's what, A4 about or so, the cheapest one. Like, it can be lined paper, it really doesn't matter. You get any kind of cheap paper, and you just mileage. The only challenge I would give you if you need some kind of goal is you buy a super cheap box of pencils, and your goal is to use up the pencils. That's the thing I did. I had my markers, and I was like, I want to use these markers up because I'm tired of having so many pencils and pens and not using them. So just draw, 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 draw. Okay, so relax, kitty. Cats, when they're relaxed, they tend to have like closed eyes. And you have two ways of drawing closed eyes. You have this way, which usually is like happy. You know, like you're happy. And you have this one. This one can be used for like sleep, for when someone is sad, someone is like discouraged, like, oh no, they did this silly thing again. They messed up in the kitchen again. But if you want to draw like just happy, relaxed, I like to draw like these. Then have the nose, and then you have just a lazy smile. And ears. That's possibly how I would tackle this one. Well, okay, all the pencils, if it's a box of a dozen, that's kind of a lot of work. But I know that I had a handful of markers. They were like food pens. Like just with soft marker nib, a bit like a brush pen nib, but a really fine one. And I would just go through them, and my goal was to use them up. And I think I went through about 6, 7, 8 of them. They didn't last long, yeah, but considering if you sharpen your pencil and you just fill in space a lot, like with all these kinds of like tiny doodles. And you can do the same with paws, like you're like, okay, a paw, how I want to draw a paw, and you just try all kinds of drawings of paws, and you say, okay, if I like this one, what would it look like a bit more on the side? And with the beans, do I want the beans to overlap, or just to be like more graphic and 2D and just like represent, like say you have this and it's split in 4 like that. Well, if I have this shape, do I split it in 4 just the same way? Like this kind of exploration, and that will use up space fast if you just let yourself try anything and everything. Like I've been doing this for about an hour, and I've already filled a bunch of pages, and I had to sharpen my pencils 3 times already. So you know, it's not super important. Sorry about the camera. It's not super important, the tools or anything. Just I know it's difficult. I really know it's difficult, and I can speak about it because I've been through it and it's done for me. So I'm like, no biggie. But I know it's hard, and it's really just about filling up space. And I think that it really helps if you draw a lot and you draw fast, and you don't really care if it smudges. Like I think I started using the pens in that sketchbook in particular because the paper was rough and it was smudged so bad. It was a mess. So I was like, I'm tired of the smudging, let's just grab whatever and draw with that. But yeah, if you sharpen your pencils a lot and all of that, you might just give yourself the challenge of going through 1 pencil just to start. You grab one, sharpen it, and say, okay, I want to scribble just stuff until this you know, it's a short pencil like this one, and I can't really use it anymore. And then you take a step back, you look at everything you've done. Did you like it? What would you change? And you keep on practicing. But really, like, that's the problem with art, is that supplies are so expensive, and it's so made to be something like about masterpieces and finished work. It's really easy to overlook all the practice you need to do and all the ugly art you need to put out. It's just about, you know, stuff and roughing up stuff. And like say you just want to start and you want to draw a cat walking. Well, you fill out a bunch of pages of just you trying out stuff. And it's not bad, it's not good, it's just trying out. And it's better to try out stuff that doesn't work on a rough page of sketch like this than on the nice paper you put out and that you want to turn into the drawing, you know. I don't know if it helps. If you have any more questions, if you want me to clarify something, by all means, feel free to ask. Hey, Temple, hi. Thank you. I can keep on rambling a bit. When I was in college, first, I finished high school and I did 6 years of college, because the way it works here is our own stuff, but I did 2 sort of professional program. I did the first 3 years in graphic design. It really wasn't for me, but I still learned a lot. And then I did another 3 years in animation, like cartoon animation. It wasn't exactly for me, but it was still a bit better than graphic design. And where was I going with that? I think I lost my train of thought. Yep, I did. Yeah, awesome. Good job, me. Hold on, let me find it again. What was my point? I had a story I wanted to tell. Oh no! Oh, I forgot. Hold on. Can I find it again? This is so bad. Again, another thing I can say is that it's also perfectly okay to be stumped if you have mental issues, mental problems, health problems. Like, for a really long time, I was so anxious that I couldn't even draw. It was a mess, and it lasted for a really long time, like close to 10 years, where I couldn't draw. I would have like some periods of time, a couple of months here and there, that were a bit better, but overall, I think there was a series of years after school where I barely produced anything that was personal because I just couldn't see past the anxiety, even if I wasn't aware I was being anxious. So yeah, it's perfectly okay. It's not fun, it's unpleasant, and it's much better to be able to not feel that. But if it happens to you because of that, that's perfectly normal. What helped me is medication, and I know that's not available to everyone. That's okay. But yeah, if it's something that you have issues with and you don't really know what, and you put the blame on yourself for not being able to draw, before you do that, see if you can ask your doctor a couple of questions and see with them if it's possible that you might be anxious on a level that requires medication, because that really helped me bring down the fog that was sort of messing up with my brain. So that's okay. It's fine. Yeah, it sucks. It really sucks, but it's fine. Yeah. I would always, I think it's because of the sort of training that I had. Even when I felt crummy, I would always try to scribble in a sketchbook anyway, and it wasn't good. It was like art that made me really unhappy, but I think it really helped me anyway to just keep going at it, even if I wasn't happy with it. Because it's a habit that you're forming, at least. And if you form the habit of just not feeling afraid of the page and the tools, that's a good thing. Even if nothing else is working, even if you can't do a piece you like to save your own butt, just being able to keep working at it and just filling pages of things you don't like, there is good in that practice, in my opinion. Because it's when things eventually pick up, like you can build on this base that is really solid. Yeah, that's something that I've noticed. I'm reading the chat, and I think that on our super lovely community on YouTube, a lot of people are able to use art as a therapy, which is really cool. It's not for everyone. I know I'm not really able to do that. Doesn't really gel into place for me, but yeah, it's great. I still can't find my thought from earlier. Oh no. Like, I was a really long time without painting, like really long time, at least close to 15 years without touching paint at all. And that was not because I didn't like it, that's just because my brain was messed up. You know, something is off when you realize you don't even feel like you love cats when you're me. That should have like lit up a couple of red flags earlier than it did. How can I go from being such a cat person to not really caring about cats? That's a big red flag. But yeah, did you do a lot of painting when you were in art school? Not really, because graphic design is not exactly about traditional arts. I had a traditional art, one class was about traditional stuff, and I had the most dreadful class in the world about color theory. Ooh, it was bad. But yeah, the class we had about traditional stuff was fun, and it was, I remember, I have really good memories of it because it was a bit more free, and it was kind of fun to put ourselves in the shoes of the art students there and just be able to wing up any kind of you know, like artsy fartsy stuff we wanted. Like, this represents the sadness of the soul, and you know, you can really ham it up in art school. And that was the class where we were allowed to do that, and the teacher was really okay with it because it was about learning about traditional tools and all of that, but ultimately it was not super useful in terms of graphic design. And then when I studied animation, it really was not about painting. It was more about being able to draw like backgrounds, characters, different styles, being able to construct them, being able to animate them, and all of that stuff. So it wasn't really about painting. What was so bad about the color theory class, to spill the gossip? Most of the class, okay, so the teacher made us buy acrylics. That's already a bad start, but acrylics in cyan, magenta, and yellow, and black and white, I think. And she made us mix all the colors of a color circle with these. And she had sort of her colors, her circle, and we would have to paint endless swatches of this stuff. And then go to her with our swatch, and she would compare our swatch with her reference thingy and be like, oh, this one is close but not green enough. Go paint the new one. And we did that for a couple of classes, and I mean, students are poor, and she would make us buy so much acrylic for that stupid color wheel that was ultimately completely useless because we would use computers all the time, you know. And I understand being able to know how colors mix, but for the life of me, I have no clue why she decided to make us do this thing in acrylics, because we would end up wasting so much paint in this stupid class, and it would cost a lot of money. And I hated the teacher, and I think she hated me, so that was really not a super efficient relationship. I remember she had us paint something that was about color contrast, and I painted the scene, and I don't know why. Perhaps if I were to watch that painting again today, I would understand why she gave me such a low note for it, but it was about color contrast. And I looked at my color wheel that she made us do, and I was like, well, what I'm painting is kind of a night scene, so I'm gonna paint it all in purples, and I have this space here that's a fire, and I'm gonna paint that in oranges and yellows. So I have my color contrast of purple and yellow. That's kind of opposites. That should be convincing. And she gave me like a very average note and wrote a comment like, the contrast of colors is not convincing. And I was like, what? Well, I passed. Fuck you. Sorry about the F-bomb. But God, a teacher. I had another teacher, the photography teacher, that wasn't really super, you know, syncing with, and she kept calling me Gabriel. And I was like, why do you call me Gabriel? My name is Eve. And she was like, well, you remind me of, you know, the paintings with the chubby angels. And I was like, thanks. I was much less chubby then. I was younger and much thinner, but it was still kind of a moment of like, well, F you too. Okay, let me check my notes. Do you want me to write over my notes over here so that you guys can write stuff down, or was my explanation clear enough? Yeah, I know, she was absolutely unable to remember my name. But we had a fun revenge with that teacher. Not anything evil or bad, but this was the early 2000s. And we would have digital cameras that we could rent out, but they were the really old cameras that you had to put you guys are gonna laugh, but you had to put like you know the small floppy disks, the 3 1/4 or something. I think that's what you had to put in the camera to be able to save pictures, if I remember well. So yeah, we could rent these out. We had to go to the library and leave our like ID card, and we could rent these out for like the weekend or a night, and then we could do our homework or take pictures for like graphic design and then bring them back and all of that stuff. But at some point the teachers could also borrow these cameras. So I was in class. The class was like a open space. The way it was set up, it was between a class and anyway, it's hard to explain in English, but anyway, we had like teams of desks, and we see a guy in our class at another desk starts laughing, and everyone's like, "Why are you laughing on your own?" He's like, come check, and we go over and we look at the camera he had just rented, and the person who had rented the camera before had forgotten to remove the footage they had shot, and it was footage of that photography teacher going about her horse riding lessons. Like nothing bad, nothing adult, nothing serious, but it was just so weird and random and hilarious that the fact that we had this laugh on her sort of made for the fact that she would call me Gabriel. That was funny. Are you for real, Ellen? What? Oh, that's awful. I'm kind of glad that most of that mindset is too old to be teachers at this point. I'm sure there's still like some really bad people doing this again, but it's something that seemed like it was more of my parents' generation. His name was Macaulay. If you ever see a large canvas in a gallery with thousands of evenly placed dots on it, spit on it. Racist old trash. Indeed. It's disgusting. I think I had a phys ed teacher that was a bit too much into kids too. Like, it was a weird time for teachers. I think we might have gone like some cases are more on the overboard side now than not enough. But when I grew up in school, it was really on the not enough side of things, and there was some really weird stuff going on. Okay, so is there I don't think I saw any replies about the notes. Is there anything else you want to know? Is there something you want to see me draw? There's always such a big delay between me talking and stuff being live that like there's been a good chunk now, like a good 5 minutes of just blank paper. We had a male teacher that used to throw the girls' change with them. Ugh. We had that too. I think I'm pretty sure I had a teacher that did it a couple of times. And then the really creepy one when I was like really young, he would like grab the girls by their t-shirts to have their attention, so he would pull them forward him from their shirt, which is a bit weird. You know, not exactly politically correct. The thing is that you know, I was really young then, so I'm not, my memory of it is kind of foggy. To me, it feels like that's really what was the problem with this guy, but perhaps if I were to see, like, I always keep in mind the tiny fraction in my mind that maybe it wasn't as bad as we made it, but I will always think that it was pretty bad anyway. Don't know if that makes sense. Now it's always worse than we thought it was. Okay. Then I don't remember what they did. It was an older guy, like maybe they just retired him early. Me. Yeah, Mikey. Yep. When the male teacher in our gym class looked up the girls' shorts, yikes. The girls were blamed. Yay! Good old victim blaming. Why? And shorts had to be lengthened, but it was a different era. I find that there's a bit of both. There's stuff like that perhaps as kids we didn't realize how bad they were, but I think that a lot of stuff today we react to, and there are something, not anything in terms of not anything in terms of mature content that will always be like a big no-no, but I see parents being offended at times for stuff that I'm like, well, it's like I know mostly about TV shows because that's what I studied, like people getting their panties all in a bunch because something in a TV show is a bit scary, and then you remember all the movies like Littlefoot the Dinosaur and The Secret of Nim, you know, all these movies that had like scary bits in them, and we still enjoyed them a lot. Like it wasn't scary that it would prevent us from functioning as a kid. Oh, you should draw different fruits. Okay, let's draw something with that. Let's say I want to draw a cat carrying a basket of fruit. Start with the head, because that's the part I like to start with. Yeah, I was trying to think, like sometimes I will start with another body part, but most of the time from this kind of stuff I will start with the head. Then I might just try to figure out in relationship to the head, like what's the average length of the arms that I want to draw, because I figured that the arms are going to be holding the basket, so knowing the length of the arms is going to allow me to be able to decide how big I want the basket to be. And if it's a heavy basket, chances are that it will be tilted toward the cat, just as an attempt to carry the weighty stuff closer to here, the gravity point. So I want to draw the expression. Perhaps I should have waited until I had drawn all the things in the basket, but there's the issue also of running my hand over this part when I want to draw this here and smudging everything. So I figured that the basket is here, I can safely draw the eyes looking towards the basket, and it should be fine. And then I want to draw the general shape of the fruits in the basket before I start drawing every single fruit, just because I find it easier to sculpt from larger shapes. That's a thing you might find useful. Instead of thinking in details, you always start thinking in large shapes first. Like if you want to set up a scene with multiple cats in it, let's say this is the floor, decide that there's a floor, and you can go like, okay, so I have one cat that's going to be here, a smaller one that's going to be here, I have a staircase here, and one's going to be on top. Oh, this one, you see, it's not the proper size. So let's just say staircase, and there's going to be a door. Let's say this is going to be a house anyway. So you can see that, whoops, if my cats are to be consistently the same size, I need to make the door a bit bigger. So you can just, you know, having this ability to just like, say this is a Halloween drawing. So you have a bunch of kids and they are trick-or-treating, and you just draw them as triangles around with heads. You can sort of figure out your setup, and after that you can go into more details and think, okay, well, this one is going to be running, so it's going to be a bit like this, and this one is going to be dressed as a witch, so he's going to have a hat, you know, and you can add more details and elaborate on this really rough super simple thing of just having people drawn as basically this. Okay, back to this guy. So I'm gonna have a bunch of bananas just here, a couple of clementines over here, and I'm probably not going to be able to build up fruit all the way up here unless I put something like perhaps you know, something bigger like a pineapple. It's going to be like sort of nested over other stuff, and then you could have a melon over here and sneak peeks of other fruits on the back, and perhaps that's going to be like as big as I can build this basket of fruit without having like things falling over. Sorry, sneeze. And then, well, is this cat dressed up in any way? Let's put an apron on because they are dealing with food. And yeah, that's just something you can quickly sketch, like just an example. Something that like I could sketch in my sketchbook and have, you know, just put some idea out. And it's not super detailed, it's not super elaborate, but it's just something. Thank you. So what else? Like when I drew the kitten jumping in a puddle, I started with the head again, and then like you have it's always about thinking a bit. You try. I was like, okay, so if I picture myself like crouched like that, my back is going to be rounded, and then there's going to be my butt, and then my legs are going to be, you know, like folded over like this. So that's going to be about the really rough shape of it, right? And the tail will be about somewhere about here perhaps. And then you have to think about, oh, the arms. Well, I want to have them be somewhat readable, so I will have them like, you know, be folded backwards, a bit like in the action of the thing, and the other end would be here. And then, well, this shape is 2 legs, so I have to put in the second leg. And that's how I would like build it up. You just play with it and if I draw something that doesn't look right, I just erase it and play with it more. And you can sketch it like this. And then sometimes at this point when I draw the arms, I keep in mind that you know, an arm, like say you draw just an arm like flat front view, and this is the paw. Well, if you draw lines on the arm, it's going to look like this, right? But technically the arm is a sort of sausage. So if the sausage is coming towards you, it's going to look shorter, but what I find useful when I'm thinking of drawing like this is that the lines, if they come toward you on the sausage, they will start curving up a bit. And I find that useful, like say when I'm drawing this, just to put a couple of lines, because if I want to draw a coat on this arm, then I know that I have to make the cuff a bit curved. And in that regard, this part is probably curved a bit the other way, so if I had lines, it would be perhaps a bit like this. And same with the leg, just to help you figure out like if you want to add more clothes on this stuff. Think of sausage with lines. And if you're stumped, you don't know how it would look, you can always grab anything that is, like it can be your pencil, and you draw lines flat, and then you angle it and you look a bit at it. And you can, like, a sausage shape is really easy to find around you, so you can easily answer your questions and your insecurities by grabbing anything that is like that shape. Like this bottle, like the sticker is flat on, but if I can see like, oh, it would be like curved this way. Okay, fine, I can implement that. Hey, welcome back, Paulo. You're just in time to hear me ramble about sausages. And then the head, this is perhaps just a bit too straight. Like you have the legs, you have this. Let's grab some color. So this is kind of, this is this general direction, this is this general direction, and this is curvy a bit. So I kind of want to have the head follow this curve. So I might, you know, since the head connect, like when you draw the head and the neck, it kind of connects to a 90-degree angle, right? Mostly. So if this thing is curved, I kind of want to have this angle here, perhaps a bit more. And then I will draw a face. And since this is a bit lower and you see a bit more of the top of the head, then that might, you know, how I draw the ears might be influenced by that. The best time to wear a striped sweater is all the time. Yeah, a stripy sweater might be a really good way to figure this out. Every time you said sausage, all I can think about is your sweater. That sweater was awesome. Yeah, my super sausagey sweater. I love sausages though. Sausages. So, I don't know if that's helpful. Is there anything you want me to elaborate more? Or that could be another session, another lesson. Hey, Lee! Hi! Hi, Tsikabu as well. I don't think I said hi. Like this is, your sketchbook pages can look like this, where you try a bunch of things. And you can grab like any kind of color pencil and you just figure out stuff. It's good to learn from people. I've decidedly learned a lot from people, but ultimately what stays the best with you is the thing you sort of understand on your own, I find. So it's great to just work with sketchbook and paper and fill pages with stuff and figure out what you like. Before I started, like, if you remember, I did not always draw cartoony cats, and I tried to draw cute cats for a really long time, and it's not for me. Like whenever I try to have, you know, cute eyes with lashes and big cutesy stuff like that, it just doesn't work for me. So things started making sense for me when I was like, you know what, if eyes like this is what I draw, well, this is what I'm gonna draw, and I'll figure it out, you know, find a way to make this work. And then everything sort of fell into place. The less you fight yourself, I think the happier you'll be with the results you get. When you can do no other, you have fun in your style. Yeah, fair enough. Otto says, I went to the bank on Thursday and apparently they were having a Christmas sweater day. It was just weird to see a bank full of people wearing Christmas ugly sweaters. Yeah, you don't associate like fancy bank people with Christmas sweaters. So, do you guys have more questions or things you perhaps would like to see a bit more, like have me elaborate on? I've seen people do mitts from sweaters. They would just like cut the mid shape in the sweater twice and sew them together and had the band of the bottom. Well, here locally we have kind of a salami sausage named Fellini, which means cats. Cat sausage. Cat sausage. There you go. Eve, what's your favorite Christmas drink? I'm not good with alcohol, and I haven't really found an eggnog that I thought was delicious, but I love tea. And since I'm in Canada, Christmas is in winter and our winters have snow, so any kind of tea that is warm and has some sort of unsweetened creamer in it, awesome. Maybe different ear positions. Okay, let's doodle some of that. So always head. It's not even an. I think that the fact that it's not a nice round that I've like took time to do adds more personality. So don't worry if you draw a head shape and it's not a perfect round. That's possibly even better. So standard ears are like upright like this. You can have like a flatter head and have the ears either to the side outwards, or you can have them like really in the middle like this. I've seen cats that would have like a more like a sort of kind of a V a bit, like you have more of a V shape around like this, so the ears would be a bit more outwards. You got an art scam email too? What was it about? Hot chocolate is delicious. The sausage cat needs to be a sticker. I think Leanne Gold sent me stuff about distinctly tea. Some distinctly... I can't say that word. I'll have to check it out. I love... I think my favorite tea is the one by Kuzmi, their Kashmir Chai. It's absolutely delicious. It's a gallery in Chelsea, New York that wants to represent me, and they can they send info about their promotional services? Like they're gonna charge money to promote you. It's Dan that is triggered by cold tea, not the Otto. Okay, so ear shapes. Do you mean like general shape or just ways that the ears can express different emotions? Because I often do like the ears backward. I know that that's not exactly how it looks, but I love the silhouette of doing this, and usually you have some sort of panic going on if I'm to draw like the backwards ears. I'm sad about cold tea as well, because when it's cold like this outside, cold tea is sad. But Dan says, who said cold tea? That is the one that has zero patience for cold tea. I have a nice thermos. It's I don't know, it's in my stuff, but the thing is that it keeps the tea too warm and I cannot drink it. I would have to put it in there when it's already like drinkable temp, and then it would keep that warmth going on. But when I put boiling tea in the thermos, it stays hot for too long. The way ears can express what the cat is doing. Okay, so, well, you can have these. These are good for like angry or scared, just like a real cat. If a cat is curious about something, usually the ears will be more upright, like really, really upright. We call that the Batman ears in this household. But you can really like have them be straight up, as opposed to like relaxed ears that would be a bit more to the side, like this. If you have a cat, that's really your best demonstrator you can find of all their expressions. What else? You can have sort of the mildly annoyed cat, like not with the ears full on flat, but just, you know, just a bit annoyed. So just a bit different. Like you keep sort of a curve in it instead of going like completely flattened ears. And that's like for a cat, that's like I used this for this guy here, who is not super psyched about being splashed on. No, bad cat. Yep. Mogwai has a song that is called Bad Cat, I think. Trying to think what kind of other way my cats use their ears to express stuff. You can use the ears to, let's say we have two cats here, and this one is being a prissy cat over here, and is talking smack about the other cat. Well, you could have, like, you know, the way the cat flip one ear sometime. Perhaps it's something that you could try and implement, and have the cat look back because they can hear their name being spoken in vain. Meow. What else? Because cats, they have ears that are very mobile, but it's mostly in reaction to the sounds and the noises. So that's something you can keep in mind, depending on the scene you draw, to remember that the ears might move in the direction of the sound. Like, say a cat drops something and it makes some noise, well, perhaps you would find use for this sort of ear again. Aside from that, there is like relaxed ears, there is super curious ears, also the ears they make when they eat, which is funny. You have like millionaire and pissed off. Trying to think. Do you guys have any more like cat expressions in mind in terms of ears position? Ear positions? Tsukabu says my Bootsy was really good at expressing herself through her through her here. Oh, I can't. I've been talking for 2 hours. Ah. Come to Canada instead. We're way more chill in every sense of that. It's cold. Horse ears are all over the dang place, but once you have the shape down, you can rotate them as needed. Exactly. This is why I find it useful to have the cat's figurine when I'm really confused about like just regular ears, but the angle. Like sometimes when I draw the fluff in the ears, I'm like, would we see the fluff in that angle or would we not? So I can just, like, I can see that, nope, this is all outside ears and this one is like all fluff. So this is when the figurine is helpful for me. Oops, I should really make the eyes a bit more consistent with the position. But the closer you get to a profile view, the weirder I find, like the more difficult it is to make the face look pretty, I find. So that's why I really like to draw really sort of frontal or like 3/4 view at most. I just find it more expressive. Oh no, Jennifer, that's sad. Oh no, I'm really sorry about that. I'm glad that my countrymen were really nice to you and your family. Yeah, sadly, we still have racists here. They're just more subtle. Or perhaps a bit more aware that it's not super nice, but they still feel that way. I was talking with a friend that's about my age, and it's something we see kind of a lot in the generation of our parents. This kind of accepted mild racism, which is so weird because I always correct it when I hear it from my parents, but they're not really aware of the fact that it's offensive, which is really weird. Yikes. It's a kaboom that feels really that sounds like a familiar scene. Tskabu says, I remember we were going to Alaska one year and needed to pitch a tent for a couple of nights in Canada, but it was super windy. A family of Canadians came over and helped us out randomly. Yeah. I feel like that's our stuff because that's absolutely something I would do. Oh, that's kind of really uncomfortable, Otto. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. It's I don't know how to say this because I don't want it to come across the wrong way, but like it's a way of saying it. It's a slang that is close to like just Japanese. So I think the guy probably think that it was not a slur, but the way it sounds is definitely a slur, so it's just so weird. All the incidents with First Nation people. Oh yeah, that's really unpleasant. That's not something I'm so bad. Whoa, really, Jennifer? It was several years ago now and was a very rare condition. He is one of 3 people in medical history worldwide to have had this issue. That's pretty intense. Yeah, I think sadly racism is sort of on a rise just because of the way the way the internet allows it to be. I think really doesn't help. Hey, we have great topics today. Booyah! Here, this kitty does not approve of it all. Like, no, why? That's so cool. Otto is saying the nicest people were in Denmark. Husband and I got lost in the countryside. Someone came out from their home, asked us if we needed help, and actually walked us to where we needed to go. That's pretty cool. It's kind of weird because I'm not from Montreal originally. I am from Quebec City. And it's not exactly the same setup, especially when I was there like 15 years ago. It was less. I don't know how to say it. It's not bad. It's just the mood was really different. Like it was kind of it's not small, but in comparison to Montreal, it was kind of a smaller town, and everybody is super helpful, and it's less like a big thing and all of that. So like sometimes when I'm in Montreal, I still have my habits from growing up in Quebec. So I would see like an older lady, say, carrying heavy bags of groceries, and I would simply offer like, "Hey, are you far? I will help you carry these to your place. I don't mind, walking a bit of my way and helping you." And sometimes people, they look at you like for a split second, like, "Are you gonna run away with my stuff?" Like they just, not that they doubt it, they're just not used to this kind of offer. And every time this has happened, they've always been like, "Are you from Quebec?" And I was like, yeah. And they're like, that's why. And I was like, well, okay, fine, I'll take it. But yeah, it's just when Montreal is weird because you can't exactly behave in that same kind of open way with everyone here, because there's all sorts of people from all sorts of mental spectrum as well, especially in the subway. So just have to be a bit more careful, but yeah, it's still really safe, I find. Scotland looks really awesome. I would love to go someday. I hope I get to go someday. It's on my bucket list. So, okay, I think I'm mostly done here, unless you guys have any more stuff you want me to ramble about. I've been rambling for a bit, and I feel like I kind of went around most of the stuff I wanted to talk for this kind of first introduction, simple way of addressing this. I want to go to Scotland for many reasons, but one of them is I want to be able to experience the local swear words and swearing habits of the Scottish people, because it's really similar to us Quebec people. So I want to, like, it's like a familiar thing far away from home, and I really want to. I think I would be laughing all the time just because it's so imaginative and funny. And it's the kind of insults I like to use that you say them to someone and they cannot right out come at you saying, hey, you said this really mean thing to me. You sort of have to process what they said and be like, oh no, wait, that's actually insulting, or like, I'm not sure. So that's one of the things I would really love to experience. Oh, we swear a lot around here too. Don't worry. Oh yes. So wow, I need to work and earn more money so we can afford a place that has at least a guest room. we barely have enough space for an office, so yikes. YouTube, why so hard? Okay. All right, so oh, Otto, can you send it to my Twitter? I will watch it. So yeah, thank you everyone for hanging around and sticking with me throughout this different type of video. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, you can always leave them in the comments. I will reply to the comments as much as possible. I also have my PO box in the description if you want to send in postcards or anything. Like if you have ugly Christmas postcards, that could be pretty cool. I want to say again a great big thank you to Kelly for sending stuff. I'm excited to draw the paints a lot. And also a great big thank you to Otto and Grace for being the moderators in the chat and always being on their toes in terms of putting links and all that stuff. Yeah, Otto has a really awesome channel if you are not aware of it, and I would encourage you to go check it out. Grace doesn't have a channel yet though, but maybe someday. So thank you very much for being there. I hope you have a great weekend and we will see each other quite soon. So bye bye.